Have you ever lived a moment so intense, so explosive, that it echoes across history forever? December 7th, 1941. The skies over Hawaii opened up, not with rain, but with fire. What was meant to be a quiet, peaceful Sunday morning turned into a battlefield from the skies. Explosions, screams, metal torn apart, and in just under 2 hours, over 2,400 Americans would be dead. But behind the smoke and flames was a master plan, a daring gamble by an empire on the rise, and the moment that pulled the United States into World War II. This is the full story of the attack on Pearl Harbor, and you've never heard it told like this before. To understand why Japan attacked, we have to rewind the clock. The 1930s. Japan was expanding aggressively across Asia, invading Manchuria, then China, and eyeing the Pacific. The US stood in the way. As tensions rose, the United States cut off Japan's access to critical resources, especially oil and steel. To the Japanese Empire, that was a declaration of economic war. So Japan faced a choice: back down or strike first. They believed that if they hit hard enough, the US would stay out of Asia. They thought Americans didn't have the stomach for war. They thought wrong. At 6 a.m., the first wave of Japanese planes launched. At 7:02 a.m., 2 US radar operators spotted something strange, dozens of planes on their screens. They reported it, but were told not to worry. It must be a group of incoming B-17s, said command. They weren't. 7:55 a.m. The attack began. Dive bombers screamed down from the sky. Torpedo planes skimmed low over the water. Within minutes, the USS Arizona was struck by a bomb that ignited its ammunition magazine. A fireball tore through the ship. Over 1,000 men died in seconds. Nearby, the USS Oklahoma was hit by multiple torpedoes and capsized, trapping hundreds inside. Sailors leapt into burning oil-covered waters. Some were cut down by machine gun fire. Others tried to rescue their crewmates trapped below decks. Across the harbor, chaos reigned. Pilots scrambled to their planes but were shot before taking off. Anti-aircraft guns returned fire, but it was too late. In 90 minutes, 8 battleships were damaged or sunk, 188 aircraft destroyed, over 2,400 killed. It was the most devastating foreign attack ever carried out on US soil until 9/11. At 8:40 a.m., the second wave of attackers arrived. This time, American gunners were more prepared. The skies above Pearl Harbor turned into a deadly dogfight, but still, damage was done. Yet despite the destruction, Japan missed its most important targets. The U.S. aircraft carriers, Lexington, Enterprise, and Saratoga, were not in the harbor that day. Fuel depots and repair facilities were untouched. Japan had delivered a powerful blow, yes, but not a fatal one. Instead of crippling the U.S. Navy, they had only enraged it. The next day, December 8th, President Franklin D. Roosevelt stood before Congress and declared, "Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked." Within hours, Congress declared war on Japan. 3 days later, Germany and Italy declared war on the United States. The sleeping giant had awakened, and it would stop at nothing to win. American industry mobilized like never before. Factories that once made cars now made tanks and planes. Millions of men and women joined the military or worked in war production. Pearl Harbor had united a divided nation and unleashed its full strength. The attack on Pearl Harbor marked the beginning of the end, not for America, but for the Axis powers. In the months that followed, the U.S. struck back at places like Midway, Guadalcanal, and Iwo Jima. The aircraft carriers Japan failed to destroy became the spearhead of the Pacific Campaign. But the legacy of Pearl Harbor is not just military, it's emotional, it's human. Beneath the waters of the harbor still lies the wreckage of the USS Arizona, a tomb for over 1,100 sailors. Each year, visitors from around the world come to pay their respects, not just to the dead, but to the memory of a day that changed everything. Pearl Harbor reminds us that even in peace, we must be prepared. That freedom can be fragile, but also that out of tragedy can rise resilience. Pearl Harbor was not the end. It was the beginning of a story of courage, sacrifice, and unstoppable determination. And as long as we remember what happened on that December morning, we ensure that their sacrifice was not in vain. History lives on. Let's make sure we learn from it. At first, Mexico remained neutral. But after German submarines sank Mexican oil tankers in 1942, the country declared war on the Axis powers. That's when something incredible happened. Mexico formed the Escuadrón 201, also known as the Aztec Eagles. Trained in the United States, these brave Mexican pilots were deployed to the Philippines, the same Pacific front that Japan had expanded after Pearl Harbor. They flew dangerous missions. They bombed enemy positions. They fought side by side with American pilots in a war that began with that infamous December morning. Though they didn't fight at Pearl Harbor itself, the Aztec Eagles are a proud symbol of international unity, and proof that Pearl Harbor's impact reached far beyond Hawaii. The attack awakened not just a sleeping giant, but also inspired nations like Mexico to rise and fight for freedom.